And hello, you have made it once again to the live stream of consciousness. It is Thursday, February 23rd. Why did I want to say Friday? I never do a show on a Friday. It's February 23rd. The year is flying by. It's almost 2024 already. Jeez, just turned to 2023. What's happening? I am Michael Zinn. You are at the live stream of consciousness. I am at the live stream of consciousness. That means we're together. The live stream of consciousness is my happy place to have really great conversations with really great human beings and share them with other great human beings who are the collective consciousness out there watching. So welcome everybody and thank you for being here. If you're new, say hello. I have this bell that I will ring. Oh, I'm not trying to ring it right now. I will ring it if you are new and you subscribe. It's kind of like my new gimmick to try to get people to subscribe to the show. But I'm super excited today. I have a guest on the show that I've been talking to probably for the past year about coming on the show and finally making it happen. It's a gentleman I met a few years back at a spiritual getaway weekend workshop thing with Karen Garvey. I don't know if you guys watched the show and you have seen Karen Garvey. She's been on the show. Amazing, inspirational speaker and thought leader. Who was having a weekend. I wanted to join the weekend. I was a little tight on cash, so I needed to make some arrangements, and she helped me by having me share hotel rooms with the gentleman who I'm having on my show tonight. And he ended up being an amazing person to share a hotel room with, to spend the weekend with. And then eventually became my dentist. So it's a very interesting story. Welcome to the show, Dr. Joseph Morris. What's up, Joe?
Hi, Mike. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
You are welcome. I'm so happy that you are here. It's been a year in the making, but it's an interesting story that I want to get to. When we met, we kind of talked about this idea called Channel Zen, which this probably would have been a part of, or maybe this evolved into that, but we will get to that. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at what I'm doing here on the live stream of consciousness. I know I told you that I have great conversations with great people, but there is kind of a procedure that we have to follow, and that is I need you to answer my first question to get us on kind of the same page, and it is the live stream of consciousness, and that question is, what does that mean? What is consciousness? What does consciousness mean to Dr. Joseph Morris?
Oh, you dive right deep, really, right off the bat. Consciousness.
I do.
Oh, I am. So therefore, I think, or I think, therefore, I am. Consciousness. I think it ties into the whole world. A lot of times you can use the word dependent origination, where everything's dependent upon everything. Mm-hmm. So I think consciousness is a universal, worldwide. Well, I'm going reverse. Worldwide, universal type of a procedure, thought process where we're tied together, mm-hmm. Where it gives you your experiences. Whether it's created by yourself. So the experience of creation of your experience.
Okay, and that's what consciousness is. That's a great answer. I love that question because I always get a little bit of a different answer, but it's always it's the same. Sometimes it's from the I am perspective. Sometimes it's from the collective perspective. I had an Australian woman, Gemma Starr, on the show, who came at it from the spaces in between all of that perspective, okay, which was really cool. It was definitely it's just this definition that keeps growing each week when I ask that question. And I've got some people out there. Welcome, you. Tim is in Brazil. He's saying hola, Dr. Morris.
Hola Tim.
Jilly B, a good listener, is also welcoming you. And Tim is saying he loves your CA door sign. Oh, he's taking a look at your the sign on your door. Yeah, cool. Awesome. And Janice is out there too saying hello. What's up, Janice?
Hey, Janice.
Awesome. So, okay, so great start. You've been properly initiated. The next question kind of gets us into the conversation. And I know that you are on a similar page as I am, because we did this weekend together. And when I say the similar page, I'm talking about the page of reality kind of being a little bit more, or not quite what we were taught in school, as far as like the basics of reality, but what's outside of reality. My question is there a moment or a great story that you have about when you realized that, when you suddenly were like, oh wow, there's more to this world than I've been taught or than I thought? Or is it something that you just kind of always knew from being a kid?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if there's a moment, but I think like you, and I think a lot of the listeners and a lot of people that are brought to your live stream of consciousness and asking those kind of questions, you're seekers, and you have a tendency to look deeper into things, and you look for people to guide you. You mentioned Karen Garvey, a wonderful friend and mentor. Um, I think you mentioned I do Tony Robbins. You read and you read, and you seek. So I think I always knew there was something more. I don't know if I could put my finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm finding that you really, truly can create your reality. And so that means reality is, there's a phone in my hand, but can I make it ring? Or can I create a happiness? I can be happy because it's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always easy. Sometimes it's a challenge, and that's part of life too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the fact that it was just um, when I reached a certain group of people, which included you, with the spiritual billionaires,
Mm-hmm.
and finding Karen, and a lot of the people, my carbonites, and a lot of people that I find that you can create things. So when you can create your own reality, then it's not what you expect.
There you go. It's better than you expect usually,
Right.
right? And that's what the live stream of consciousness is, right? I mean, I created this place, and here I am now with you in this moment. There are people out there listening and getting something out of it, really enjoying these conversations, enjoying hearing the stories of people and how what their perceptions are, in the universe, and how it might relate to themselves or might help themselves. That's what
Absolutely.
it's all about. And you kind of mentioned, this collective consciousness, which is like the bigger thing. You know what I mean? We're all just like little fingers of this bigger thing, and that's what we talk about here all the time. So you talked about, what did you call it? The carbonites? Is that another, what's that?
Carbonites is another group um, that we get together with Karen as a mediator, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better word. And we do what we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
We listen, we talk to each other, we come together with parts of our human reality and how we can deal with it. We talk to our guides. I'm a big believer and one of the things, I think, to answer a previous question more depth, I discovered that I can listen. My guides are talking to me, and if you're, and I think everyone, guides can talk to you, and if you listen, you get some good answers. The trick is listening, and then if you can hear, then you have to figure out what it means.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that can be, an up and down challenge too. But the Carbonites are a group of people. Um, Several of them were the first spiritual billionaires that we did in New Jersey at Lisa's house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're part of my family now, as you are. I mean,
Yeah.
the connection we made that weekend, driving together and spending, time away from the group, too, was
Yeah.
a special time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm kind of envious, because I feel like life has really like kind of taken over a lot of my time in the past couple of years, and I don't get to do that kind of thing. So let's go back to that weekend a little bit and talk about it, because for me, I think it was a little bit different than it was for everyone else, but I think everyone else kind of got a little bit of that magic as well. And I guess the spiritual billionaires weekend, for people who are kind of wondering what that might be, is a weekend, like Joe said, moderated by Karen Garvey, in some thought exercises, and collective connecting exercises, ways to really raise the vibration, of the planet together, and have those moments, connecting with other people that are on that same frequency, and just really, feeling it in the room, meditation, past life sessions, things like that, that are, I think, we talk about energy here a lot on the live stream of consciousness. I think those experiences are elevated when you're in a group like that, with a very specific intention to elevate the experience to that level.
Without a doubt, intention is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can you can set intention. You can do a lot, and you can do that going to bed. If you set an intention that you want to hear from somebody,
Right.
or get some advice, the dreams, if you want to call them dreams, for lack of a better word. But the stories that your guides will bring to you can help guide you through that. So intent, that's a great word, my guy. When you do that,
Yeah.
you set your intention every morning with gratitude and love, and great things will happen. And you're a good example of that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know what? You said something that just made me smile about dreams. And you're like, you said, if you could even call them dreams. And that's because I guess I feel like I have the same connection to, dreams. Now let's put it in quotes,
Yeah,
right? Because I feel like it is an actual connection to an alternate reality, or not even an alternate reality, the same current reality, just a different frequency of the same reality.
I
um
totally agree.
yeah, yeah, and that's awesome. I love that feeling too. That's like, it's almost a comforting feeling, I think that, something else that, ties the spiritual community together, that I've been realizing lately, is kind of like, and I realize this through my interactions with other people who have very serious fear of death, like they're afraid to die. And I'm just like, so not afraid to die, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, almost, I've talked about it here, like I'm almost looking forward to it, like the next adventure, you know what I mean? Like, not in a like, oh man, I want to die kind of way, but like, I'm not afraid to die. And I think that is something that takes so much, tension and pressure and stress off of life. You know what I mean? Like, so many people living life who are afraid of dying, that's half of their battle every day, is like, oh my God, am I going to make it through the day? Am I going to die? I
But
can't, you know?
considering that's something that's going to happen, whether
Right,
you, whether you're afraid of it or not, it's going to happen. So why be afraid of it?
right, right, right. It's definitely an interesting, connection with faith. That kind of not fearing death is just, hey, I have faith, that I am an energy source, and I will persist. I will get through that process. Maybe you won't recognize me when I'm done on the other side, but I will recognize myself.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to turn the table a little bit and ask you why you're not afraid to die. But yeah, that's a great answer. It's a great answer.
Yeah, I mean, and you said it too. Like, it's not something I can avoid. You know what I mean? Like, am I gonna like dedicate my life to trying to avoid that? Like, am I gonna be a mad scientist? Looking for that fountain of youth, or trying to figure out how to transplant my consciousness into a robot? I mean,
Well, somebody, a wise person once told me that if you can handle the worst thing that'll happen, then you become super person. I won't even put a pronoun in there.
mhm, mhm.
You're indefeatable if that
Right.
happens. Because if the worst thing is X, and that's okay,
Mhm.
then life's a bowl of cherries.
Totally. Totally. So, I want to just for a minute go back to, that amazing weekend that we had, because again, Karen Garvey is, she's quite a wonderful, mentor and moderator, and just fantastic energy to be around. And I think that, again, that's kind of the big thing too, is with the spiritual community. It's definitely energetic, right? You kind of, the people that you like to hang around, because it's an energetic thing. It's like, ooh, I feel good, just hanging around with that person. So we had an amazing weekend doing, a bunch of different exercises at, this beautiful house, and I was there, kind of on an exchange with Karen, because we were speaking before the weekend happened. I was talking to her, and it was really interesting. Really, this is the story really more about Karen, but I felt drawn to her through my friend Steve, just to reach out and talk to her, and that's what we were doing. We were talking, and we were just talking about photography, and she said, "Wow, this is interesting. I'm having this weekend, and I have this." Her approach is that she seeks out people that she feels are kind of a little highly higher frequency, right, at a level that can receive even more, right. um, and she had put out the word to 15 of her people that she felt she wanted to gather together, and she was waiting for the responses, and she said, "You were on my B list, and if I don't get enough responses, I was thinking of asking you, but before I even get my responses, how about we do an exchange, and you come as a photographer. I wanted to hire a photographer because some of the people that I'm inviting need to feel comfortable with themselves in front of a camera. They don't. She recognized this in some of the people. And and I said, awesome, because a lot of times I'm told, like, oh wow, you really caught something in myself that I don't see, right? So it was like a perfect match, and I was just excited as hell to be able to have that exchange and be there for that. But it turned into so much more than that for me, because of the caliber of the people that were there, right? You have these amazing, amazing people, 15 amazing people, full of so much love already. And here I am. I have the opportunity to, one by one, away from the group, spend 20 minutes with each one of them, which is not something that you had an opportunity to do, or anybody else. Everybody was in that group the whole time. It was so amazingly special to me,
Good.
and like blew my mind because everybody was so special. And you talk about your guides, talking to your guides. uh my girlfriend, she talks to her guides all the time. A lot of people I know talk to their guides. I i don't call it that, right? But I certainly am in touch with my inner self and my intuition, whatever I call it.
That's the same. Yeah,
I
that's it.
don't recognize it as individual people or entities or somebody talking to me specifically. I feel it, you know what I mean? And it's been so amazing to connect with people like you, and that high vibe weekend. Like I said, I got to start really like making the time to do it some more, because it really is expansive. I mean, through the live stream of consciousness, I've definitely achieved something. Something else that about that week is we talked about the concept that I had back then called Channel Zen,
That's right.
which was a place where I could help people by producing shows and then put those shows in one place. And it's really evolved, I think, into this. I never thought I would be the one in front of the camera. I did a show with Christopher Allen, who's a good friend of mine, a psychic medium, and I actually ended up producing a show for about a year until COVID hit. Called something about the other side. I'm still here.net is his website, but something about the other side. I forget the name of it offhand. I'm like in that nervous head. But it was an amazing experience producing that show. And it really was a part of this journey in getting here to this, to having my own show. And beyond the show itself, it's become so much more for me. It's just become a happy place to me. It's become a lesson in intention, a lesson in just showing up. It's afforded me conversations with people like Tommy Chong,
Yeah,
and I had a conversation with this guy who calls himself Flat Earth Dave. um and you know what, really the funny thing is, like, I didn't want to like learn about why the earth is flat or even talk about that. I just wanted to get on the same page with him, you know what I mean? Because so many people, fight with him on the internet. I had seen That's what I had seen, and I was like, oh, I want to give this guy, I want to talk to him, you know what I mean? Like, so I had a great conversation with him. And not to go on too long about this, but the other thing that came from this show is I did a show for a little while called The Strange and Wonderful. And that show was one of the listeners of the live stream of consciousness, Courtney, if she's out there, uh, got in touch with me, and she said, I want to do a show about people called The Strange and Unusual.
Okay.
And I said, okay, what is that about? And she said, well, uh, and I've told this story, so forgive me to my listeners, but she said, I'm a little bit strange, and I feel like people should know it's not like I'm just a normal person, but you may think I'm strange. And I said, how are you strange? And she told me that she has a relationship with a doll, like a life-size doll. And I was like, okay. And I really wasn't like, my mind didn't go anywhere like that it shouldn't. I wasn't like, oh, well, does she have sex with the doll, or what is this? I was just like, how do you have a relationship with a doll? What does that even mean? You know what I mean? And so I became curious about it, and I said that's pretty cool. I said, why don't we call it Strange and Wonderful?
There
and
you go.
and she said okay,
So,
and we started the show. And again, she told me about herself. I felt no judgment, which really was like so cool to like almost feel your heart expand as you talk to someone and just be like, wow, like I totally accept you even though you're totally different than me. And our first show, we had our guest was a trans woman who also had a relationship with a doll, with just an amazing story to tell. And I literally felt my heart and my head expand as I was having these conversations and doing what I'm doing here. Like it's just such an amazing outlet for me. I do it for myself. It's therapy, but I also do it for people like you, and to have these conversations. And you know what? It's happening. I had a great conversation with Lori Ladd, a great author who's she was on the Spiritual Billionaires tonight. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but she was on not the Spiritual Billionaires, their book club. So I'm gonna have to watch the replay. But anyway, all right, enough about me. I'm just blabbering on about.
well, Mike, let me interrupt for a second. I got to tell you, see, the things you said there is the savior of the world.
Mm,
Curiosity, hearing people's stories, growing your heart and growing your mind by listening to people.
mhm,
No matter if they're flat earth or dolls,
mhm.
or it doesn't matter what. If you take that curiosity one person at a time, you save the world.
Wow. You just made me get chills. That's amazing, because that's kind of what I feel. It just feels so right to do this and just have these conversations. So then let's turn the tables back to you and give you the space that we're here to create. And tell me a little bit about your journey. I know that you're an avid fan of, like you said, thinking, critical thinking, and kind of inspirational thinking. Tony Robbins. You've been to Tony Robbins events, which I know are like huge energetic whirlwinds, of power and energy. So tell me how you got into that. Um, I guess, and I want to also talk about your being a dentist a little bit too. But tell me how you got into that stuff first.
Sure. Like I said earlier, I'm a seeker. I've been for all my life. As a younger person, I probably didn't have, I don't know, the words. I don't want to use sophistication, but just the knowledge of where to look, I guess.
Mhm.
And I was talking to a friend of mine about Tony Robbins, and I've read his book, Awaken the Giant Within, and I have cassette tapes of him. So that tells me how long ago this was, that it was cassette tapes. Everybody know what cassette tapes are? Um, but okay, so we talked about it. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go online and I'm going to look. And I did. And how much it cost to go to one of the seminars. I said, what are you, crazy? So I put it on the table for 20 minutes. I went back. And before you know it, I'm talking to this English lady, and going to London for my first Tony Robbins event.
Wow.
Um,
I remember the cassettes. I remember my
yeah,
brother giving me one of those cassettes, and it was like that was the thing back then. It was like Tony Robbins on cassette.
on the cassettes. And people might know him from what was that movie, Shallow Hal? He was in a movie
Oh yeah, that's right.
with
That's
Jack
right.
Black and
Tim, thank you.
and
Tim is
Al
saying,
Chico in the
yeah,
suit.
yeah, I remember that. Tim is saying I know I feel my heart and mind expanding here every week. Thank you so much, brother. Tim was my guest here a few weeks ago, but
Nice.
or last week I think it was. Uh, but anyway, yeah. So go on.
So I go to London, not knowing what to do. My first time in London, It was wonderful. And, so again, it's not just Tony Robbins. I spent time in a European country, a lot like New York, I guess, but different because it was so worldly. Everybody I talked to, just sightseeing a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
had such an amazing worldview. So again, you talk about heart and minds expanding.
Mm-hmm.
They knew more about my politics in the United States than I did. They had more definitive opinions.
Wow.
And that was amazing. So now I go to Tony, and I'm sitting there, and luckily, I was in the first 20 rows.
Cool.
And the man is literally bigger than life. He's like, I don't know, 614 feet tall or something. But the words he spoke were like arrows into my brain, arrows into my heart, like what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like he was talking to me. Not anything that I don't think anybody listens would hear, hasn't heard before. A lot of it, the 6 human needs and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. It's all psychology.
Right.
But what he did, it was like he could reach into you. Where's my hand? He could reach in, he holds you, he could knock off this, knock off that, pull it out, and then put it back in. And it
Wow.
was,
That's
and
a
it was
great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, it was beautiful. So I spent about a year and a half, or maybe 2 years in Tony I did a platinum partner thing, and I was probably at 8 or 9 events.
Wow.
We fire walked.
Wow. Tell me about that. Tell me about the firewalk.
Firewalk, boy, is scary. He spends a good part of one day preparing you for the firewalk. And you're in this big auditorium. Think of, I don't know where people are, but think of Madison Square Garden, full of people, and everybody takes their shoes and socks off and leaves them at their seat. And we all walk out, and we're chanting as we walk. And
What
we're
are you chanting?
we're walking. And we get to these 4 foot wide, 15 feet long charcoal walkways.
Okay.
And again, I was lucky that I had Tony actually was on my charcoal walk.
Nice.
Grabbed me.
What's the chant? I don't mean to interrupt. What's the chant?
I wish I remembered.
Yeah.
Okay. I honestly, it was hypnotic. It was just, we were just,
I can imagine. Yeah, I'm picturing the whole scene. Were there drummers like?
No drummers, but we were all chanting. And we get there, and he grabbed me, put his hand here, and he said, "Joseph, you got this." And he went shook, and you just boom, 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 boom. You get to the other end, and it was liberation.
Wow.
They grab you and they wipe your feet off, because that's when people get injured, when there's leftover cold.
Yeah.
We did, so part of the other meetings, some of the big meetings are 5, 7, 10,000 people. But because of the platinum partner thing, you would go on different events with 200 people, and you had a very different experience. And I'm lucky and blessed to have spent time on camera with Tony.
Oh, wow.
And I was a famous dentist. If you want to talk about dentistry, I was famous dentistry for, I think still now, people still say that dentist guy, because we had to talk about our numbers.
Oh, wow. I wish I knew that. I would have looked for that clip. I would have brought it
up. I could, if I knew, I would have shown it up, but can't really see it.
Can I find it on YouTube? I could find it while you're talking.
I don't know. I don't even know if it's on YouTube.
Tim is saying, anyway, please don't burn. Please don't burn.
It was pretty special.
You know what? I thank you for sharing that, because I just got so worked up. I got so nervous, feeling like I was I can imagine how much adrenaline is pumping through you when you do that, and how it must feel. It must feel amazing. I'm going to look for this on YouTube while you.
Okay. So, but the smaller groups also, because you got the chance to talk about some of the human needs. We talked about money. We talked about relationships. We talked about spirituality. We talked about adventure. They have adventure meetings where you get broken into teams, and you actually get on a America's Cup yacht and race it.
Wow.
You have relationship meetings where they talk in depth about sexuality, and this is a difficult conversation. I don't know if it's stream of consciousness, but talking about femininity and masculinity and what that means, and the diode, the plus and the minus, the yin and the yang, whatever.
Right.
They talk about spirituality very deeply. There was very guided meditations in India, that kind of thing. So it's a very human type of thing, but it's also broader than that. And that brought me to Karen, a friend of mine. I can't say how I know her because I get in trouble with HIPAA. But she said to me, Joe, I have a woman that you need to meet.
Oh, I hope I didn't get you in trouble, by the way.
Oh, no. With you gave it up, so it's okay.
Okay.
This woman didn't, so I'm not going to mention
Gotcha.
But she said
you made me think for a second.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Wait, I got to go. The door's knocked. Somebody's knocking on my door. So I got this woman you need to meet, and I went to Karen, and she had the year before us. She does it every year, and unfortunately, every year it's always a Saturday I work, so I get there late. But I get there late, and I came in my first one. I sat in the front, and I'll say this with a smile on my face. The first 20 minutes, all I heard her say was "walk," because she was so beautiful. I couldn't separate that out. But then I realized that the beauty was not only outward but inward.
Yeah.
And I did hear more than I expected.
Right.
And ever since, I talk to her weekly. I'm blessed to be able to do that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you know what? You make a good point. I feel like she's definitely one of those humans that makes you realize what it is to be human and not put that whole sexuality thing into it. You know what I mean? Like, and you said that actually also you said that you were having conversations in these groups about masculinity and femininity, and it made me start thinking like, they don't really have conversations about it. You just are kind of born into it, and it is what it is until recently with all of the pronoun stuff and all of these kinds of things that are happening. The conversations were never like, well, I mean, there were sayings like boys will be boys and things, and I certainly see some of the negative aspects of the system and the way the masculine and feminine thing is set up, but that's what's so important about what you're saying. Like, we never have conversations about that and how those energies should be interacting with each other. You know what I mean? On a more copacetic basis.
Now it can be confusing. When on just even a simple, and I don't know if those are good words either, but a simple type of situation where, what does a woman want as a single guy? What does a woman want? And does she want me to be a nice guy, or does she want me to be a strong guy, or whatever? It doesn't mean. But now you get into much more diverse discussions about what it means to be masculine if you're a female.
Right.
What does it mean if you don't feel either of them? And those are difficult conversations. But along the line of what you started tonight with, if you don't have the opportunity to at least engage in conversations, you never know.
That's right. I mean, as far as all of that goes, I mean, I don't see, it's certainly, I believe that everybody should have freedom of choice to do what they wish, as long as they're not harming anybody else. But growing up, it was certainly like, it was okay to be a masculine female or a feminine male. To me, it was okay. To other people with different levels of ideas of that, to some over masculine guys, feminine guys were gay and not acceptable because they had this feminine attribute. But to me, I was always obviously accepting of whoever you were, and then obviously I feel like in today's world it's gotten more to the extreme where it's like, okay, I'm not just gonna be a masculine female, I'm gonna emulate a male, as physically, as much as I can, And I think, more power to the people who are having success with it. I understand also people have issues, from it, and I feel for them, but that's their journey, right? I mean, that's
And the journey again, it comes back to I think that we're seeing these because now people are more apt to open to different journeys,
hmm hmm
and the creation of their own journey.
hmm hmm
You
hmm
know,
I like
because
that. Yeah, there.
it's not always about what happens; it's how you deal with what happens.
Right.
We people, you made me feel this way, and I'm not sure. Again, I'm not saying it's simple, but the only person that makes you feel anyway is you.
That sounds simple to me, Joe. Um,
But
and,
it's hard if somebody calls you, you're a blankety blankety blank,
right.
and it's hard not to take that personally. But did
Right.
it? Did it really?
Well, I guess that's a different conversation about
Of
society
course,
and where it puts people and what it makes them think. Jilly B is bringing up a good point, saying each of us have both masculine and feminine qualities. Absolutely,
without
and
it.
and and again, it should be up to us as to which qualities we like to express. You know what I mean? More. What feels more comfortable. It's certainly not a problem with me, and again, I guess that's part of why The Strange and Wonderful works so well, because I was just, and it's interesting to go back for that for a second. Like that particular show brought me conversations with. There was a gentleman called the Lizard Man who's actually in Ripley's Believe It or Not. He's in there. He's in like 7 or 8 Ripley's Believe It or Not museums around the country. He's called the Lizard Man, and he's tattooed from head to toe with like lizard scales, and he has body modification. His tongue is split in the middle. He has his teeth shaved to fangs. He's got like some things in his forehead that create
Wow,
bumps and stuff. And it was the most amazing conversation I've had with it's funny because that's a quick cool story that's related to the live stream of consciousness, and how I feel like it was such a cool kind of spin-off of this show, is that it was very spiritual. And that is that um as I was telling a friend about the Lizard Man, and I was having this guy on the show, and I brought up a picture on the internet, and she was so taken aback and like, oh my god, how could you do that to yourself? Why would you do that to yourself? You're immediately cutting off 50% of the people in the world from even wanting to talk to you. And I'm like, that's brilliant. I'm like, he's cutting off 50% of the people that don't understand what he's doing. So why would he want to really waste his time with them anyway? You know what I
that's
mean?
great.
Like I was like, that is so brilliant, and there's so much intention behind it. And I intuitively kind of felt that. And when I talked to him, I asked him about that, and he said, absolutely. He said that's a big part of it. And he was doing like freak show, sideshow stuff when he was younger, like putting nails through his face and all of that stuff. But
Wow.
to each his own, right? I mean, he's made his life. He's in 7 Ripley's Believe It or Not museums. I mean, that's quite an achievement, right? Very, very good, very good stuff.
Without a doubt, he could have come to me. I could have done his teeth for him.
That's awesome. So let's talk about that, Joe. Were you a dentist before all this started, or?
Yeah, I wanted to be a dentist since I was about 9 or 8 or 9.
Wow.
Yeah. My dentist when I was a kid was awful.
Wow.
Was not good. He would
That's an
draw the
interesting
wrong
story.
teeth and all sorts. He would yell at me, "Why are you late?" I'm like, if I knew now what I knew then what I knew now, I'd say, "Dude, I'm 8. My mother tells me to get in the car. I get in the car. Yell at her. Don't yell at me for being late. It was her fault." But eventually, my parents figured out that he wasn't a good dentist, and we switched.
Mhm,
And the gentleman we switched to, Murray Ellman, he's passed away now.
mhm,
I'm the old dentist now, so um, he was great, and he showed me all. And the other guy put nitrous on, and it was a mess. This guy, I looked around, and I saw all this cool stuff, and there's a thing called a top and wire retainer. It's we use it all the time, but it's old school dentistry.
okay.
It's a retainer put around the tooth that you can put a filling in. That's what made me want to be a dentist. That technology. was that. Now we have digital X-rays and 3D printing and
Wow.
milling and video
Well,
scan.
you know what? I'm listening to your story, and I think that's a big part of it for sure. But there was also the way that this guy received you. You know what I mean, and respected you, and showed you what you wanted to see through with that stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He's like, oh, you're curious? Let me show you about it. And that was such a change for you. It seems like, and so, welcoming as an opposite of scary experience.
Right.
That's awesome.
I agree. And he was a great guy, and he knew that I was going to try and get into dental school. He knew me through college.
Wow.
And then his wife was ill and he had to move. And then I lost track. We lost track.
Wow. So he was your dentist from 9 or 10 years old all the way through college. That's awesome.
So, and here I am almost 40 years later, still drilling and filling.
So how long were you doing dentistry? Like, what turned you, if you talked about it, I apologize, but what turned, like, where did Tony Robbins come into the picture, like, suddenly, or was that the whole time, or?
It's a continuum of my seeking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll talk to you, or talk to, people that are like-minded. And I've been aware of Tony. I mean, like I said, I had his book, Waking the Giant Within, had the cassettes, and we were just talking, some colleagues, because we would travel into the city every Thursday to working at NY, teaching at NYU one day a week. Mm-hmm. And Tony Robbins came up. I think maybe somebody saw Shallow Hal on.
Right.
So we talked about it, and it kind of renewed an interest. And I had done a lot of reading in my years.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Dyer and
mm-hmm.
Eckhart Tolle, and a lot of people that a lot of people are very familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Prior to hearing about Tony Robbins.
Yeah, well, I knew Tony. All these people were kind of in a conglomerate.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say a lump.
You were exposed to them, yeah.
I've been exposed to all these type of people.
Yeah, they were kind of they all go together. Yeah.
And Tony was somebody who jumped out
right
at that moment. And like I said, anybody who've ever used a computer knows how you can fall down a rabbit hole on a computer, and then 5 hours later, it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah,
that's what happened. I said, I'm not spending X amount of dollars to go sit in a 10,000 seat auditorium. And next time, I'm talking to a nice sounding English girl, and she convinced me to come to London. So, and I don't regret a minute, because it's been an amazing experience. I have dear friends still from my Tony Robbins days. I don't see them that much because they're all over the world.
Right.
From London and from Amsterdam and from California and from Florida and all over. But there are still people that we touch each other's lives, just like you and I touch each other's lives after, almost a chance encounter.
Right.
That's not anymore.
Yeah. Totally. Amazing stuff. Awesome. Well, I have some more questions, I'm sure. I'm just, it's just awesome to be talking to you and catching up finally.
Absolutely. Love it.
You have anything planned going on, to anything coming up, with Karen or with Tony, or?
No, Tony, part of my thing too is that with Tony, sometimes coaching and that kind of thing is important, but it's time to do the work too. Mm-hmm. We have a conversation sometimes that what's more important, knowledge or action? Mm-hmm. And to me, it's action, because you can learn a lot from your action, and that you gain a lot of knowledge by doing something. And not to say that you should do it willy-nilly, and you should go into things with knowing some information. It's clear. Right. I'm not saying go do brain surgery without going to medical school,
Right.
But at the same time, you don't know how to do brain surgery until you do it for the first time.
True. And I'm sure the disposition, of just who you are, has helped you in your profession. I totally forgot to say hello to the spiritual billionaires if they're out there watching. I do see Tom
Hey, Tom.
out there watching. Dr. Joe rocks. Dr. Joe certainly rocks, which is why he's here. I did put a message out into the spiritual billionaires. I invited any of the spiritual billionaires who want to come on my show and have a conversation. You're all welcome here. I would love to sit and talk with you guys for an hour. So outside of being a dentist and going to Tony Robbins conventions, what else do you like to do, Dr. Joe? Tell me some more about
Oh boy, I could talk about that for a long time. Well, I'm an amateur actor.
You know what? I forgot that about you. Oh man, I should have
I
been
don't have any pictures
digging.
on, but I'm an amateur stage actor. Not really. I'm looking. You can tell I'm not a TV actor because I don't know where to look. But I do stage acting, and I've had a nice little career on Long Island. Having a nice little career on Long Island.
You're still doing it currently?
Yeah, the difference now is that not long ago in a season of shows, if there were 6, I could be in 4, whether I wanted to or not. If I didn't like the show or the timing wasn't good.
Right.
Now, man of a certain age, I can still act, I can still sing, I can move a little bit, but I'm an older guy.
Right.
And so out of 6, now maybe there's 1. And I still have to go through that algorithm of, do I want to be in it? Do I have time for it?
Right. Right.
But it's a great joy. And again, very similar to the Carbonites and Spiritual Billionaires. Made a lot of dear friends that have come to my daughter's wedding and, that kind of thing. Plus the creative outlet that it gives you. And then more recently, I've developed a hobby of ballroom dancing.
Oh, I think you were doing that when I met you. I think I remember you talking about that. Yeah,
6 years now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And you can see, I didn't even think I had this on.
Oh, nice. There you go. A little.
It's a wonderful hobby. And you can do it like playing golf. You could do it in a lot of different ways. You can go out and just play golf once a year in an outing where it's more important to drink beer than play golf, or you could take lessons and practice thoughtfully and play 3 times a week. You can do it a lot of different ways. And
that's awesome. Now you got me in trouble. My girlfriend is saying ballroom dancing is fun.
Ballroom dancing is great.
I think I might be in for it. So let's go back to talking about energy. I know that Tony Robbins and Karen Garvey and deeper thinking, is inspirational about life and trying to be happy, and live a happy, productive life, and I guess also kind of live a little bit in service and help other people understand that they are the architect of their own happiness. You were talking about that a little bit at the beginning about how you definitely believe in manifesting life the way you want to, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. I think a lot of people take it too literal. You even said, you're like, oh, I can make this phone ring, and I don't think you meant it like literally, like, all right, I'm going to concentrate and the phone's going to ring, but I knew what you meant. You know what I mean? Like you can fill your life with the things that you want to fill it with, and focus your energy where you want to focus it, and that is a choice, not a it's not like dictated to you, and it's not a response to what's you get to choose that. But outside of that, I want to talk about the metaphysical aspects of it. I know Karen does past life regressions and things like that. Have you had any experience with the metaphysical, any like ghosts, spirits? I know you said you talk to your guides. Is that related to that?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't have a ghost experience. I know some people who do, but I have guided experiences all the time. And sometimes I know who it is. Sometimes, most of the time, I don't. But I'll notice certain things, and I'm getting better at interpreting them. But luckily, I have Karen to guide me a little with that.
Right.
As an example, there was in the city once a week, as I mentioned, and on my walking travels, I must have seen maybe 15 redheaded women.
Okay.
Not just Auburn. I mean, Lucille Ball, redheaded, you know,
Right.
and that was odd. So when something odd happens, I stick out, and I think, okay, that's being.
What does it mean? Right.
I saw one time, again, the same amount of people carrying string instruments, you know, guitars or violins.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, the you know what they meant at the time, I don't remember now. Um, um, but to pay attention to that, and sometimes, you know, Karen finds our celebrity guides, you know, or different people that come into our life, and I have Rudolph Valentino as one of mine.
Mm.
He comes to me talking about perseverance and standing up if I'm feeling that, you know, my identity is questioned, because he had a lot of issues with that. So
Hmm.
he comes to me to support me with being true to who I am.
Right. And I think that's an important thing. Authenticity is something that's so important, and I think an attribute that is a part of spirituality. I think that's one of the things that brings spiritual people together, is that authenticity. And again, I feel like, it was like, oh, I don't think I was necessarily looking for a dentist, you know what I mean? But having met you and being like, oh, like kind of like you said, like the dentist was never like a pleasant experience for me. And I said, let me go see Joe, and you were always so kind to me. And again, you're still my dentist after all of this time. So there's got to be a
Well,
reason.
it's my honor to take care of you. But yeah, you know, the metaphysics is something that I look at from a physics point of view.
Oh,
I do a lot of reading from that point of view too.
okay.
And I look at it from a philosophy point of view, not necessarily religious,
Hmm.
but I
Yeah.
do a lot of reading on from a Buddhism point of view.
Right.
It's a big, interesting part now. And I mentioned dependent origination in the beginning of the show,
Uh-huh.
um, where everything is tied. Everything is tied together. It's, you know, look at science fiction with Avatar, and
Hmm.
or any of those shows that, you
Hmm.
know, with Native Americans, where nature is all part of it, and we impact everybody. So I yell at you, that might hurt you, but it hurts me just
Hmm.
as much.
Sure.
And you know how I mentioned to save the world one person at a time. That's how you do it.
Yeah, that was, you've really, I got to kind of, I've been really, I really have been felt drawn to this. And this just was like evolved into this thing. And I actually cut a clip out. Um, Yesterday I had a show with Peter Bales, who's a comedian. And he said, I think Michael misses calling as a therapist. And I was just like, wow, that's very interesting. And it's just, one of the things I got to say that has been really fascinating and rewarding to me over the last couple of years is my ability to navigate my relationships with people. You know what I mean? Because everybody's different, and everybody requires a different response, and I think just kind of being aware of that, and working with everybody to the best you can, and feeling like that's what you want to bring to the interaction, that's my secret. That's what I like.
Well, you know, you come. Here's your. I'll tell you, from what I know of you, your secret is you come from love, you come from curiosity, and you come just from an open heart. And if you come from those areas, if you have that intrinsic curiosity,
Mhm.
that everything else comes from that.
Yep.
Because you know you don't worry about if they're in a relationship with a doll, or they have lizard teeth, or they think the world is flat. Some people would try and puff up their ego,
Right.
to say that silly guy, come on, dude, the world's not flat. But
Right.
there's other things to that. Let's find out about it. And once you start a dialogue, that's when things can change.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that you recognize that. I can't tell you how much fun it was having you on my show. Um, I would love to get from you. We have a couple of minutes left. We don't have to rush off, but I would love some words of wisdom from you, Joe. I love how you put Joe there. You don't like the formal Dr. Joseph
Yeah,
R.
what's that? I don't know.
But I would love some words of wisdom from Joe. I would actually like to make that a segment on my show every week.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. You know, the words of wisdom. come from love. Everything comes from love. And understand that you're doing the best you can at the level of consciousness you are now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you worry about what you talked about earlier, if you worry about this or worry about that, might happen and might not happen. And if it happens, deal with it. If it doesn't happen, why'd you worry about it?
Right.
So if you come from an open heart and you come from love and understand you're doing the best you can, then if I can say what I said before, life is a bowl of cherries.
Yes. And I think that's the goal, right? People, you gotta look at life as a bowl of cherries. You gotta want it to be the bowl of cherries.
And if you don't like cherries, pick something else.
That's right. Or whatever it is you love. It doesn't have
That's
to be
right. Bowl of ice cream, pizza. I don't care. Whatever it is.
Relax, people. You don't have to be so literal. Awesome. Well, you know what? Before we go, I don't know if Tom is still out there. Tom, I see that you're on Facebook. If you could go to YouTube and check out the live stream of consciousness on YouTube and subscribe, then I could actually ring the bell tonight, which would be kind of cool. So let me know if you do that, or let me know if you intend to do that or subscribe to the show. Again, Joe, it's so great to have you in my life. And thank you so much for giving me your time.
My pleasure, Mike.
And being here. I'm going to probably see you again within 3 months, I'm sure.
I'll be there. I'd rather it be a will for a beer and a burger. I think that'd be better.
That would be cool. You know what? We've talked about that for a while too. We finally made this happen. Maybe we can make that happen. Let me see if I got anybody out there random in the comments. I do have. Oh, look at that! I have Thomas Mayer saying, "I will do it now." You know what? I will ring the bell now for Thomas. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks. Julie saying thanks, Joe. Ninja Kitty saying thanks, Joe. Tim, thanks, Joe. Everybody appreciates you being here and sharing your knowledge and your energy with us. I'm going to put you in the back room for a second. Don't go anywhere. I will see you in a minute.
Okay.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Dr. Joe Morris, better known as Joe. He's a great guy, as you can see. I'm so happy he decided to come on my show. I'm so happy that you guys decided to come back and be here, man. It's so good to have a little bit of a tribe, you know what I mean, and see you guys each week. Thank you, Tim, for your wonderful comments. Next week I have Adam Inzalaco, who is finally coming on the show, and that's going to be an interesting one. He is an artist who works with bugs. He's a bug taxidermist, so he takes bugs and he positions them and he puts them into these nice frames, and this creates this beautiful artwork. We'll see that stuff next week. Until then, I will see you guys next week. Peace.